Welcome back to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Aaron Cooney, and right now we're getting ready to talk some women's basketball. We talked about the men last segment with Kevin Calhoun. Going to bring back in Matt Desmond here, talk women's basketball. And, Matt, we'll just go right off the bat. When you take a look at the roster from last year to this year, the biggest loss and your biggest producer, Ashley Henderson, and what did she mean to this team, and how do you replace that?
Well, I mean, Henderson was probably the most talented player on that basketball team last year, and you got to look at players that you can bring in here and replace her. You're definitely going to want production out of a former D1 recruit and April Austin when she was in her form at Dayton. So hopefully she can have the season that she had going into Dayton. But also you want to look at the transfers. You see Katrisa Savinsky, Mara McLaslin, and Emily Shartner, a D1 transfer from NJIT. So these are all three players that can actually contribute into the lineup. And I don't think it's just going to be one person single-handedly that's going to replace Henderson, because that's a big hole to fill. Right? I think it's going to be more of a 3 or 4 players that are going to rotate into that system, and this will provide the points for Point Park.
Yeah, Ashley Henderson averaging 17 points per game for the Pioneers and led them in points and in scoring all last season. And Matt, you brought up April Austin, and had an off year last year compared to 2 years ago. What really happened with her, and can she get back into the April Austin form that we know that she can play at?
Yeah, we saw last year that she was actually experienced an injury last season, and that's something I just learned this year. But I expect big things from her. She's a big weapon behind the arc, the three-point shooter for this Pioneer team. And I liked her performance against Ursuline last year. She had about 6 three-pointers. She's a really deadly weapon outside beyond the three-point arc. So I'm thinking Austin's going to be a really solid contributor to this team this year.
You mentioned the transfers will be big. We'll have to see what Coach Grenick has in store for them, and some of the other notable starters, Kristen Beatty, Jocelyn Peterkin, Kristen Veselany, and step right in. And you can tell, Matt, that I think right off the bat, when you have a player with the height and the strength that Jocelyn Peterkin possesses, I mean, you can run your offense right to her, and I think Grenick will take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. And what Kevin was pointing on the men's side, they really don't have that one physical presence under the hoop. And for the women's side, I think they're lucky. They really do have that person in Jocelyn Peterkin. And I think she's going to be probably one of the best players in the league this year. If she can return her form like she did last year. She had an impressive season. And I think if Peterkin can pick up on that, she's going to have another successful year and really be a physical presence under the hoop.
It's some other depth in returning. One of our colleagues here working Pioneer Sideline, Teresa Davis, will be back. Anna Maria Boschkova, Sarah Sandin, some of these other players. I mean, down the bench, you look, they just have depth all around. And how can Coach Grenick use all these players to his advantage?
Yeah, I really think I haven't been able to see the transfers and their skills yet. But as you said, you have Sandin and Boschkova off the bench. Those are 2 players that are a good inside presence as well. But then you have to bring in these transfers as well. You see it Shartner. She looks like she's going to be a physical presence. I think coming in at 6'2". I think she's going to be good. But as you said, Aaron, the depth on this team is only going to get better for this Pioneer team. And
same thing for all the sports. We talked to Kevin about it. Just a weaker AMC, and it's really wide open for anybody to take. Aside from Walsh, you take a look at the standings and their preseason standings rankings. Walsh, of course, up top, but they won't be able to compete in the playoffs as they're moving on to Division II. But down the line, Damon, Roberts, Point Park, Houghton. From here, what I see, just Point Park could easily take the number 1 spot if they have a good season.
Yeah, I really think the only challenge in this AMC standings is going to be against Damon. Damon always has a very solid lineup. Going against them, they had Sirocco last year, who was an unstoppable force for that Damon Wildcat team. But I think really if this Pioneer team comes out firing, they're going to be a really hard squad to let down this year.
Matt, thanks as always. As the women's season will get underway, we have the first broadcast. Me and Matt, we will be doing all those women's broadcasts for you next Tuesday, the 8th at Mount Vernon Nazarene. We'll have that one for you as we'll travel with the team. Matt, again, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to step away for a real quick break, and when we come back, the Courthouse Tavern Case of the Week, we're going to take a look at the whole AFC and see who's the top dog of that division. Stick around.